Hello, Bame Farm fans. It's MLK. It's snowing. We're here in the Quonset hut. As we are quite often enough working on stuff. We're working on the head gasket of the TR70, or Dad's TR70. Come on, brightness, adjust. Now we have the exhaust and the intake off. Kind of a funky design. Those two are pretty much intertwined together, they share studs to hold it on. We have the turbo off. It's actually it's turned right now, but it does sit below the exhaust manifold in here. The injector lines have been pulled, and it's kind of weird looking back here. There's a lot of space now. Like, whoa, what do we do with all that? Yeah, clean side of the engine, nothing down there. And I'm working on pulling the screws off for the valve cover. So we'll get back to you when we're pulling the bolts, maybe even pulling the head off. Well, let's see what's underneath the valve cover. If I can do this one-handed. I don't think I can. It's ready to pull off, but you guys can't fit in my mouth. So this isn't the GoPro, sorry. Now, because of constraints, I had to use two hands. Looking at the top of the rocker arm here. Yep. So what's that thing in between the push rods, you say? Yeah, the injectors. The injectors are in between, or actually inside the head. I definitely made things very compact and well intertwined on this engine. Tightly engineered, I'll give them that much. So I guess if you start having diesel in your oil, and you got a leak somewhere in your injectors, or in your return line. Well, we got the head out. Stop the engine in the darkness. Shine right down under the. Now you can see the fun piston design. Two little Mickey Mouse ears for each valve, and then like kind of I guess a fire crater would call it.
Combustion.
Got a little bit of oil everywhere. Sort of. Not quite. Just in the number 6 cylinder out there. I don't know how the camera's going to show the detail. Yeah, it's kind of dark back here. We're hoping everything looks okay, but we'll get to it in better light when it's not snowing and half dark outside. And 2 flashlights. Well, the head has made it up to the workbench. That's probably want to call it a night on working on things. I'll get back to it hopefully tomorrow. Well, we just saw Dad clean up a valve. Now, we've got like 4 cylinders done so far. And he was kind of teaching me how to seat the valves. Yep, they're all in. Now we use a grinding compound. Right there, valve grinding compound. Rub it around the rim of the valve seat and then around the edge of the valve. Dad's working it in, putting some oil. I guess making sure everything's smooth. We had the block at a engine shop, and they magnafluxed it, and I cleaned it up. everything came back okay. I think this is the coolest thing. I didn't realize this, because when he was telling it to me, I thought I was going to have to use my hands to do this part. There was a thing in the family engine kit for seating the valves. Just a little kind of suction cup thing on a stick. Just spin it around. But yeah, we have a family engine kit, spring compressors, the valve grinding compound, the little tool there to spin the valve around, and some other things. There's a tool for holding the rings on. Now we're looking at the what came in the upper engine seal kit. We've got left and right sides of the intake and exhaust manifold. Those 5 big black donuts are right there. Those things, yep. We got 5 of those. I think there were supposed to be 6. They seal the injector lines to the side of the block. And there's our lovely new head gasket. And there's a handful of other stuff like water pump seals. Those red tubes are parts either for the turbo. No. Now we're working on putting...
Of course.
Oh, lovely. Wasn't that just wonderful? Let's drop it right in the hole. So these are just little oil seals that go on top of the valve stems. Keep too much oil from running down the valve stem and then out through the exhaust ports or into the cylinder. Oh yeah, back to that engine kit real quick. That's a family engine kit. That was, I guess, my grandpa's engine kit that he's used to rebuild many engines. And since there were 8 kids, we just kind of share it, pass it around. This is, I guess, the second time we've used it. It's helpful. I mean, tools that I won't use often enough, but they are very convenient when I need them, like right now. So we just put those caps on the valve stems and didn't realize that the little washer for the bottom of the valve spring had to go on first. So we put all those on, and then we pulled all those right back off. But we flipped the head before we worried about putting those washers on. Got our lovely can of paint thinner there. Cleaning parts up, get the heavy dirt and oil off. Put them on clean. And that's dropping springs on, and here I go with the clips. Tiny little guys, 2 half circles, a ridge in the middle. There's the valve spring compressor. Twist, twist, twist. Lots of twisting, man. I wish that had something I could put the impact on and just screw it down. I'll give you a carpal tunnel right there. But it's got 2 offset hooks to go around the spring, and they're offset because the coils on the spring aren't, directly opposed from each other. Got to slide these guys in. Sometimes I got to compress it more to make sure it feels like they went down and locked in their groove. Looks like I got it. Oh yeah, always a hammer. Hammer's always involved in something. We're just seating the clips, make sure they lock the valves in, and the injectors are ready to go. Got our O-rings put on them there, where the lines come in. And well, today's just been a bit of a shit show. We got that, as you can see. That's not good. There's the 2 pieces that chipped out of it. We do have those. I don't know what we're going to do about that. I mean, we got to bolt the thread in there. I'm trying to hold everything still enough so you can see the wiggle. And then this other stud, well, we didn't break anything. We broke this one out with an easy out, which, thinking about it, how it's in the corner here was probably a terrible idea. I didn't do that. We tried to drill this one out and do an easy out, but when the easy out just kept sinking in, I guess we were pretty good at drilling. This is why I wish I had a drill press. So I could set this thing up and get it right in the center and nothing would move around instead of using a handheld drill. So we got lucky, got it right in the center. I kept drilling and drilling, And I finally drilled it out to 5/8 and found me a 3/8 16 thread cutter. And I am trying to recut the threads, and hopefully I'm not doing so much recutting as removing the leftover bits from the previous stud, and hopefully not destroying whatever threads we had left. So hopefully the bolt or whatever we put in the hole might hold. It's just gone to crap. So I've got it probably about halfway through, and I've been slowly turning it. I got me a little bit of lube down in there, so nobody yell at me about that. Just kind of slowly taking it in. It feels like we're turning in, so we're not just shredding things up for, just destruction's sake. The tapping went well enough. I can get our bolt the thread in, so hopefully we can find a stud, and that's close enough. Either there's bits and pieces of the old stud still in there, and hopefully they hold. They've been well baked for thousands of hours, and not that they're necessarily going to be part of the exhaust manifold, but that's kind of what I'm hoping for. That's why I hated exhaust manifolds. I've never had good luck with getting stuff apart, and they always just turn into a crapshoot. Unfortunately, probably finding one, or a newer one, or a decent used one, is very low. I mean, I know where to find one, but it's a very narrow channel of supply. We're gonna extract the rest of our head bolt. I just gotta figure out how to get up there, since that ladder won't fold down, and somebody took the 8-footer we had back here. It's a good thing I'm a monkey. Climb up here. And of course, the night we took the head off, I totally forgot to look and see what sort of mess we had down here. Well, I mopped the oil out. I can see it just below. I am thoroughly hoping, which it makes sense, why we had our issues, because we broke a head bolt. I'm very certain this did not break when we tried to turn it out. So it's not like, so what does that mean is if it broke when we tried to take it out, it would have rusted in the threads. Very hopeful / sure we don't have that the bolt was just pulled up from expansion of the metal and broke it off because it was too brittle. And I look into the brightness, and I got the light so I can see down here. I think I'm getting it out. We broke the plane of the block, and I can turn it out by hand. But you can kind of see how shallow I got a hole drilled. Okay, A, they're probably hardened bolts. And B, my little pilot drill bit went to crap. We go through those 1/8" drill bits like no other doing stuff like this as a pilot bit. Anything smaller, and it's real easy to twist and break them. And luckily, we tried sharpening. This says it's a 5/32 easy out. So I got another 5/32 bit that we had. And we tried resharpening it, and it looks like it didn't sharpen properly. Like the angle is backwards. So I got it down in there. It wasn't cutting anything in forward. So I put it in reverse, and there was just enough edge because it was sharpened backwards, which it might just be because it's such a small shank, small diameter, that it doesn't work properly with our home shop drill bit sharpener. I mean, it's professionally manufactured, but it's got a certain size that's only good for. And I was able to take the drill in reverse and kind of get it to turn every once in a while. If you saw that, hopefully. So now I got out of the block just enough, and I can get it out by hand. And this is what you call getting lucky with your head bolts breaking off. I mean, lucky and not lucky. That's all that's down in that hole. That's maybe a little over 1/2 inch of thread. Not much. I'd like to see more. That's probably how it came from the factory. So that's ready to go. I just got to figure out how to do something to the top of the block. I wonder if these are sleeved. I don't know if you can kind of see that lip there that it's raised. But we have a pattern imprinted from the old head gasket. You can tell where the head gasket wasn't. And I'm trying to decide what the best way would be to go about removing that, whether I try a wire wheel or not. I really got to come up here and remove. Man, there's more schmutz on the outside. Jeez. Oh, the soybean dust. That's why I hate soybeans. Whoever thought it was a good idea to bring those to the U.S.? Oh. Then you got to roast them to feed them to anything. I know, that's another rant for another day about why I hate soybeans. I don't care. It's shoulder. You got it? You sure you got it? I'm just kind of balancing the end back here.
I appreciate that. We'll at least get over there. All right. Okay.
Are we trying to stick it on the auger?
I don't know. I'm just trying to get it up to you.
I know. I don't. Okay. I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
It's all yours.
Okay. Hopefully there's nothing on that lower end to worry about.
Here's the plug.
Somebody's going to say, why didn't we use the bucket loader? Well, the cab was in the way. That just seemed overkill. So, we hoisted it up by hand. A little tricky getting it in there. Had to weave around some framing a bit. Unfortunately, viewing isn't prime down here. Come on. Yeah. These manifolds are entertaining in and of themselves because they are, well, they share gaskets and they have little half holes. And you got to put the intake in first. I mean, they really squeezed everything together on this side. I guess you don't have too much extra piping for the turbo. Too much plumbing work to worry about. And these were double washered. And then they got these bolts that go through the intake. Come on. Can I get started? I guess so. It's going in. And you gotta kind of hope to have the gasket somewhat lined up. Same thing over here. Okay, somewhat close. Oh no, that means my lights are out of battery. Ah, shoot. I have to call and tell Dad to bring me a battery back. He's going to the garage. Apparently he couldn't find 3 of the head bolts. Well, my light's gonna keep flashing at us. But I got the intake in place enough. Now it's trying to wrestle the exhaust back up here. I know. Hopefully nobody out there in YouTube land is bothered by the flashing. Sorry about that. Now to wiggle my arm up here. There's one, that's the only solid hole. Well, I guess there's 2 on either end of the exhaust manifold. And I'll let you guys look up top real quick. We got some head bolts there. They're not tight, they're just threaded in to get started. And you can kind of see the intricacies of how close the exhaust and the intake manifold, but they are really up in each other's business. Well, we just set the rocker arms on. Trying to get it back down. The injectors and the injection lines are on. And the pump's all hooked up. And the turbo is on, which shortly I will describe to you how much of a hassle that was.
Complaining.
Makes for good content. Welcome to the grain tank. hopefully you can kind of see how tight it is down here. This is the back side of the engine. Whew, that's bright. There's the turbo, well hidden out of the way instead of being on the top of the engine. But then behind it, in there's the intake manifold. It's woven in behind the exhaust. And then there's the oil line that feeds the turbo. And there's the return. And it's tight. There's no room for anything because you got to try to line up the oil line, the little intake hose, and more like a little piece of rubber to couple the intake manifold to the turbo. Oh, and the bolts, obviously, and the oil line, which is not something that you take off. Well, or it's not something you take on or leave. Blech. You put that on first, because there's no way you're going to line that up being a stiff steel tube. You get that started, and then you line everything else up and hope for the best. Even the easy to get to stuff, like the coupler there for the rest of the exhaust, was rather tight getting over these studs. It's like the studs are angled out, and they wouldn't line up with the holes well, especially since we had to replace a stud. And we JB welded that stud in. I mean, there was enough threads, like over 50% of the hole wasn't broken away. So the stud was tight on its own, but we put some JB weld there to say we tried hard. So that's just kind of a little overview of how space efficient Ford was with putting a turbo on this engine. Better view of just how, say, crazy it is. And you can look down and see that the intake and the exhaust share studs in the head. Just a half a hole. The exhaust has 1, 2, 3 full holes, and the intake has 2 long bolts that are fully its own holes to hold it in place and keep it lined up. Space efficient, I'll give it that much. And then they cram the injectors inside the valve cover. At least you won't leak diesel on the outside. You'll have diesel in your oil. Looks like they're all tightened up, getting up close. I think if Dad has this tight, we might be ready to set valve lash. Let's see. Looks like coolant's going in. Everything's together there in the darkness. And the battery charger says we have some battery, hopefully. Hopefully this cranks over faster than the first time we tried to start this. There's going to be a lot of cranking because we got to fill the injector lines. We know we have fuel up to the pump because that's an electrical pump. And we already bled the system out.
All right. Hold up.
Well, that sounds better. Ready?
Hang on a second. All right.
a little cold. What?
Seeing how the oil's coming up.
Yeah. Getting a little knocky. Well, here's our 3 battery setup. This is an extra deep cycle battery that came to us with something. Actually, I think it came out of the gleaner that I had. And we've kept it around, and it's been useful for stuff, I guess, like this. Where are we at now? We got it running. You saw that. Obviously, that's wonderful. We ran pretty good for, I don't know, a minute or two, and then the number 2 cylinder developed a knock, and we went through and played with... Well, we started over here and started just cracking the injector lines. And when we loosened the number 2 cylinder, the knock went away. You take the other ones loose, and you hear the engine slow down, but the knock didn't go away. So I'm hoping it's not the injector, because I'm going to take the rocker arm back off to really get that out. Mostly because of the return line. Everything's so interwoven. It's not the end of the world. We have the valve cover off and stuff, but it would be nice if it didn't all of a sudden develop a knock. I guess better now than later, but we're gonna come back out after lunch and then we're gonna set the valve lash. Yeah, but the knock goes away.
Yeah.
So we'll try the valves then. Well, we tried swapping injectors. Never smelled 1540 before, but it smells kind of like licorice.
Oh.
I think it tastes like licorice. I mean, it's pretty strong. I know what the hydraulic fluid in the car engine oil, like 520, smells like. But that's almost a little sweet or something.
That's what.
Fermented, maybe?
Yeah, it is. They got in it.
It's supposed to be the Shell Rotella, right?
Yeah.
Well, we got it running again after we changed the oil. It's a little cold. Pretty sure our knock went away. I guess it just needed fresh oil or something.